And tell me a little bit about your background, your line of work. What are some things that you do?
So I'm a photographer by trade. So that's been my primary uh, career focus for a number of years. When I changed from corporate to running my own business, starting my own businesses, photography and then IT, because photography went digital. So I was able to work into the IT support side. And so I've been running businesses as an entrepreneur for about 24 years. And that's been my most recent experience in the work world of doing that and seeing a business grow.
And you said businesses. I'm assuming you run more than one?
Photography and Mac-to-Mac service is my other business. And so I sell and service Apple computers. So.
And how long have you called Rochester home?
Rochester has been my home, physical home about 34 or 35 years. Prior to that, I went to RIT and lived in the suburbs until I moved into the city. So I've been in the city about 34 to 35 years. But RIT was my first interface, came up as a new college student to Rochester to go to RIT and study photo. And finished that program and stayed in the area to go to work because I like the outdoors and I like snow. What made me choose RIT over some other universities was there was a better chance of snow. And my first 3 years I was just about done with Rochester because RIT would finish Memorial Day weekend. There were no leaves on the trees. It was barren. It was cold. And I'd go home. I'm from Cincinnati. And you cross the border into Pennsylvania or Ohio, and it's like summer's been in full force for 2 months already, and it's like, I'm just tired of Rochester climate. And senior year, though, Rochester came through, and we had a spring like we had this year, where the lilacs blossomed, and I had more time available my senior year, and classes that put me outdoors, and I learned that Rochester is a pretty amazing place. It actually does have leaves on trees and flowers on bushes and great outdoors, and that's one of the things I like. So.
What has kept you here so long?
So one thing leads to another. I met my wife at RIT. We got married soon after graduating, made this home for some of the different commitments we had, and church ministry kept us in the area, jobs, and then family. Started a family and able to find a home here, purchase a house in the city, and it's home. And we've enjoyed and participated in all different aspects of life over those 34 years of having a home here, and that's, nowhere else is quite like home. Our kids have stretched that. They've picked up and moved to other parts of the country, and so we've got to go see where they live and experience. Rochester's still a nice, it's top choice.
And how has your life experiences prepared you for the role of mayor?
The unique aspect of going through that transition from job to being entrepreneur and starting a business, you understand the fragility of job opportunities and also the benefits that Rochester brings of being able to start your own business. One of my top areas is, number one of my 5 to Thrive is making Rochester affordable for a one-income household. And I don't think I could have started a couple of businesses and supported my family if it wasn't an affordable city to do that. It gave me the opportunity to take that risk. Knowing what I went through, that's the opportunity that I would like to see available to many other people. We're post-corporate, and we need to have that opportunity for entrepreneurs, enterprises to blossom, to grow, for smaller businesses to make this a, so to speak, a growing area where they can grow and accelerate. So those are some things that I'm more aware of in my work experience, in my experience of living in Rochester, that bring to the table. Trying to foster that growth, because if businesses grow and Rochester's affordable, then Rochester's going to thrive. If it's affordable for a young family, if it's affordable for single parent, it makes our engagement with all the aspects of life, whether you as a parent need to be involved with your kids' education, need to be involved in extracurricular programs that your kids are involved in, grandparents have time for their grandkids. I want to see a generational opportunity to grow that in our city. And so I've gone through that, raising a family here, supporting it on a single income, and that gives me a unique experience.
How would you make Rochester affordable? Just going off what you just told me there, because I know when
Yeah.
we look at affordability here, housing, rental or owning is a problem here.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to tackle, is the affordability of housing. I see jobs as the opportunity to overcome that. I've traveled across the country and been in different cities, and it's not much cheaper to live elsewhere. In fact, it's more expensive to live elsewhere. So what's the challenge? Do we have enough job opportunities? Are we taking advantage of those? Are they close to home? Are they in the city? So that people can have a regular job, which then qualifies them for money to be able to purchase a home, or even looks good when you apply to get a nicer apartment. You got to have some income history, and that's a challenge. If you have a regular job, that opens doors. And right now we're at a 2-income family. In order to be able to afford a house, that's a bit of a challenge. So I see jobs as the key for increasing that opportunity to making Rochester affordable. And it's going to be a tough one to overcome. There's some other areas, as I've talked with mortgage brokers and realtors, that we need to look at also getting under control on property availability and who's buying those properties.
And would you say, is that your solution also to tackle increasing rents? It's also increasing year over year.
Yeah, increasing rents, the cost of living is increasing. Property taxes, can we keep those under control so that it's not growing? But ultimately, a rent reflects what it costs to operate a facility and provide good housing. Is it quality housing versus is it you're paying a lot of money for a dump? That's something we don't want to see going on. But if it's quality housing, again, can we control those costs within the city of Rochester? There's somewhat control we can have, but rents are increasing. They've gone up. The cost of property has gone up 70% in the last 5 years. So it's only normal to see that rent's going to go up as well. So the cost to acquire or buy a house has gone up 70%, as well as the cost of money has gone up. So rent is an indicator, though, that increasing rent rate is the same thing that's going on for homeowners to buy or own a house. Their costs have gone up as well. So it's unobtainable. It's getting that unobtainable range for everybody, not just the renter, but the home buyer as well. So that's, how to answer increasing rent costs. More available spaces to rent, I would say. A little bit more pressure on people that are buying properties and not doing anything with them. A lot of properties get bought as investment opportunities, but nothing's done with the property, and so housing isn't available on the market. The more housing you have available, that's a natural economic trend. If you have more supply than demand, prices are going to go down. So how can we encourage that more properties are brought online and made available to people?
Another thing that tends to fall into the affordability category is homelessness. So here in Monroe County, as of the last point in time count earlier this year, nearly 1,200 people are experiencing homelessness in this county. And that's up, what they're saying is roughly 30% from the previous year. Do you have any plans to address homelessness in Rochester?
So there's a number of factors that create that homelessness. It's obviously cost for housing. cost to get food? Do we need to have more support to make things affordable in the sense of food pantries that somebody could, it would lighten their budget on one side, make it, money available for your housing costs. There are also a lot of the homeless people are people that are in transition. Maybe they were incarcerated, they've gone to a halfway house, and that affordability also becomes a problem. They have to go maybe have a month or 2 months before they are out of the halfway house and they're supposed to find some place to live. If somebody working a job can barely afford a place, that starting out all over again is a challenge. So the only people I've seen making moves on addressing homeless needs are faith ministries. Open Door Mission, Mercy House opened a new branch just this past week. I would engage with ministries to be supporting them in their endeavors to support and provide for the homeless needs. But those are some complicated challenges. We don't really identify who all the homeless, what's the makeup of the homeless community? Is it working people that are homeless? Is it somebody that's come out of incarceration and they just can't find a place to live, which I think is a real challenge in that area to solve? Or there are people that have mental health needs that they can't, they just can't deal with strictures of a homeless shelter or even taking care of an apartment or holding down a job, and that puts them in a homeless situation.
And I know we kind of got right into the issues. That was based on my questions off what you were telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess backing up some, what would you say are your top issues as a candidate for mayor in the city of Rochester?
So I break it down in a 5 to thrive. Top issue I mentioned before is making Rochester affordable for a one-income household, and that opens doors for families to be able to grow and be engaged in their neighborhood, in their community, and get to know one another. Second area is jobs, increasing job opportunities closer to home, if not in Rochester, near Rochester, so that people can take advantage of something that provides for them and their family close by. And then third is safety, not being soft on crime. And when I say soft on crime, there's crime that goes on and there's menacing crime. And we seem to have turned a blind eye to menacing crime, which gives Rochester a bad reputation. And we can't afford a bad reputation. So people outside of Rochester don't feel comfortable coming in to the city and participating, going to a vendor, going to an activity, business. They have chosen to stay out in the suburbs. We need to see ourselves as an integral part of the whole Monroe County region, so that safety is an important element of making Rochester inviting for the greater community to come in and do business in Rochester. That again brings revenue and job opportunities and services back to our city, which may cost less, hopefully, if you have an abundance of people that are willing to come here and do business in the city. Third item is, again, we talked a little bit about that, moving from renting to owning, but housing availability and working on that affordability with the different areas that are involved, whether real estate, mortgage, ministries that help people move into home ownership as well, and supporting those. And then finally, educational choice. One of the things that Rochester suffers from is an education system that doesn't meet the standards of the families that start out here with a starter home. And then next thing you know, I've seen it in my own neighborhood. And next thing I see the single home buyer get married, and then soon after, kids coming along, that kid nears 3-4 years old, and that family's looking at moving out or moves out of the city. And so you're losing a family structure because they don't feel confident in our education system. So increasing educational choice, charter schools, I'm partial to homeschooling. We homeschooled our 3 kids. So, and the city is a great opportunity to do that. You got the library system, you have lots of resources in the area. So those educational choices help people stick and stay in the city. And when you have a family that grew up here and chooses to stay here, in my case, my kids, once they got to that spot where they could move out of the home, they didn't move out of Rochester. They rented a house in Rochester, the city of. And their jobs may have been out of the city, but they chose to live in the city. So they're comfortable. It's their home. The more people we have sticking around the city and generationally staying here, the better it's going to be for Rochester.
And one point that you mentioned, crime, that's something you want to tackle. Of course, that is a concern for people who live there, people who visit, and I know the current administration says over their time here that crime overall has dropped. They do acknowledge it's still an issue and it still needs to improve, but what are your plans to address crime, but also keep it down and also fix the perception of crime in Rochester?
Yeah, so the perception is that we, and of course the news media is part of this, the headliners are often a murder or a stabbing, or this is prominent when you hear Rochester mentioned, and then the next word is a shooting happened here and this and that. We tend to, that's that bad reputation. I'm not blaming media, I'm just saying we got to keep that out of the front page by either treating crime more seriously, and then when people come into the city and do business and their windows get smashed or the car gets stolen, that's going to, word of mouth is going to go around when they, oh yeah, I went into so-and-so and my windows got smashed. So we need to treat and go chase down who's perpetrating that crime. So that's menacing crime. And show that we're treating it seriously and keeping it in check. How do we, in the way the state addresses crime right now with no bail and raise the age, there's no accountability for that petty or menacing crime that goes on, and the person goes home free or gets away scot-free essentially and is free to roam the streets again and do the same thing. So how do we break that cycle and visibly make that the community, the greater community, aware that we're addressing it? And that's a little bit of the, pie in the sky kind of solution. I'd say, yeah, we're autonomous, and we're gonna handle those crimes. We're gonna treat them seriously. Either someone's gonna be given a sentence, or I'd like it to be in a positive way. If it's teens, you get an opportunity to be in a boarding school, and you get an opportunity to be under supervision and taken out of your routine. If it's entertaining to destroy people's property, we want you to learn a better habit. That's pie in the sky. Can I do that as a mayor? I don't know. But we need to show that we have a change of attitude, and we're welcoming and respectful of people that come into our city. And so I'm going to ask the police to do a better job of policing our streets, orient towards monitoring our main areas of business so that things feel comfortable for people that come and do business in our city. And people just within areas of our community, the neighborhoods that have a lot of menacing crime going on, police that better and try and clean that out in a way that gives those residents who have invested in that area better life experience in their neighborhoods.
Kind of a combined question. What are your goals to improve the quality of life of people living in the city? And also, what are your plans to promote economic development? We're the city of Xerox, Kodak, even GM facilities here. What are your goals to maybe bring in businesses into the city?
So that invite more businesses to do business in the city is number one. Go out and be an emissary and say, consider us, and make spaces available in the city. There are empty buildings and areas that could be developed or redeveloped. So inviting and getting that business back in our city is important. We have lost all those big employers, and that's the attrition of the way our economy has gone. And so what are the opportunities that we can find? We have some very highly ranked higher education institutions, St. John Fisher, RIT, U of R. Can we retain higher caliber businesses because, hey, here are some opportunities. You have some high caliber students that are coming here and attending college here, so you have a great pool to draw from. And then also on the skilled trade side, encouraging that in our students, that there's some things to aim for. There's a lot of skilled trades businesses that if they can get enough employment opportunity or people that will come and work for them within the city, they would probably locate here more. And so elevating the importance of those careers within our school system, educational process. College is great to obtain, but I think there's a lot of skilled trades opportunity to bring jobs for this area. And so those are things I would look at pursuing. Tourism is another area that we should look at more. And the word in the news the past month is that there's a cruise, Great Lakes cruise, that's going to be coming to Lake Ontario in 2026. And I just say this as an example. I ask people, what's the only US city that's on Lake Ontario? And I put the question out to you. Can you answer that question? All right, so the answer is Rochester. Where does that cruise start? In Syracuse. Is Syracuse on Lake Ontario? No. So is that a missed opportunity? We missed the boat. The boat is, eventually came out that the boat is going to stop in Rochester. So then the next question is, what would you send people to? If a cruise boat comes to Rochester, what features would you highlight? And how would you engage that cruise ship of people that come to Rochester and stop for a day or two? So are we oriented in the tourism side? So that's an example of some other opportunities that are available that are coming to our area. We need to capitalize on those and make sure that, number one, we invite in and engage that business opportunity. Number two, we should be the first choice in the region. We have all the things that make that work right here. How did we miss the boat? And so.
And speaking on that, you've been here 30 plus years. What is your vision for Rochester? In a perfect world, what's your vision for the city?
So my vision for Rochester is that it's generationally, that it has generations of families that call this home. That the family unit would be stronger by the end of my administration. And that it would be home for, and a place to go to for the greater Monroe County region, or even this whole corridor, Finger Lakes and south of Rochester, the Genesee River region. That it's the destination and a choice that people are proud of or want to be a part of this city. And so re-engaging with our region as a whole, that Rochester is part of that whole region, and we coordinate together and work together to elevate the city. It is the center of activity, and it can be once again. It was the center, it's waned, but we can re-emphasize through recognizing the benefits and feature. For me personally, I like the ecotourism aspect, the things that we have available to us, the Erie Canal Path, the Genesee Waterway paths, as well as the Genesee Valley Greenway, that we connect tourism-wise, and it brings people in from all over the country as well as the world to come touring through here. How do we capitalize on that and emphasize that more? And so we got to look at those environmental features and ecotourism type things to make Rochester's beauty be seen, and that available for people to partake in.
And what would you say sets you apart from your opponent?
My opponent, well, number one, I'm not Malik. I'm not going to carry the same, I don't have the same bosses as he does. He needs to do what Kathy and Letitia tell him to do. That's all part of their party. And so you often miss the opportunities because you listen to bosses up the chain. I'm Rochester focused. I've been here, I've lived here, I've had to build businesses here in this city and work through those challenges of building a thriving business to support my family. So I have a connection with work to opportunities. As you win customers and you gain business, your businesses grow. And I'm not looking for the next state budget handout to support our region. If we can do things better within our own community, finding better, doing better, calling people to do better within their abilities, be it education, pursuits, setting the targets and goals that we, being a good place where employment or jobs can locate because they got a good employment base to work from. So business is informed, having to grow a business has informed my experience of what it takes to win new business or win opportunities and see growth.
Based off what you're saying there, do you feel like the city is going in the wrong direction, or has it improved over the past few years?
I would say we're on a precipice. And it's not just the city itself that's a concern, but I feel like our city's choices have been dictated by people outside the city. We have more money coming in from outside sources that are telling us how we're supposed to run our city, as opposed to the city of Rochester making good choices and engaging with the businesses in our region to grow our city. And an example of that would be the Broad Street project. We got millions of dollars, Malik says, to improve our Broad Street, which is to dig it up and make it a ditch. And it's really the only cross-town connector that connects the east side and west side of the city. Why would you break that up? And that's Albany or New York City saying, yeah, we'd like to see you do this. What is Rochester? And there's lots of people that have brought ideas to the table of how we should handle that area, and we don't consider the options that are brought right from home and understand what Rochester's about. So that's an example of the big boss telling the city of Rochester what to do and how to run their city. And that doesn't bode well for Rochester down the road. So I think those choices have been bad for Rochester's future, and we have some headwinds economically that we need to take ownership of and say, what do we need to do as a region to win business and win jobs and give opportunities to our Rochester community?
One question, this is something I asked the mayor as well. This year there's been a lot of conflict with the Trump administration over immigration policy, sanctuary city policies, and a controversial traffic stop here. Before I get into the further questions, just what are your thoughts just about how the federal government and Rochester, their relationship this past year so far?
Well, it's the federal government is doing its job. Under the Obama administration, the Supreme Court decided that the federal government has sole authority over immigration enforcement. So that's the federal government's role. I don't agree with allowing people to protest and attack and vandalize ICE as they do their job of apprehending illegal undocumented workers that are in our community. And they've done the research, they know the information, and us our police department should be keeping our streets under control. They don't need to do ICE's job, but there shouldn't be mobs attacking and vandalizing ICE vehicles and things as they go and do their work. And so I would orient towards supporting by keeping our streets in order and our community in order. If ICE has to go and apprehend somebody, they should do that unmolested.
And do you support Rochester's sanctuary city status? They claim that it's been around for decades and not something that's new.
So the original charter of sanctuary status in probably the 80s, I think when they put that in place, was to support and make sure that the elderly community would have services available to them, housing be available, things that they need, and also the deaf community would have the proper services and support. And then they added on refugees, people that again, the United States said, hey, you're allowed to come to this country, and in different cities, they say, you have these cities to choose. Rochester said, yeah, we will host and we will invite in political refugees or refugees that the United States has said that we need to come here. And so they've properly vetted them and sent them our way. And I think Rochester's been generous and helpful in that way in allowing refugees to come and make this their home, to improve their opportunities. I've met many over the years that came here to the city of Rochester, and they went to school, they participated in the education and took as much advantage of it as they could, and have succeeded in this area. But wholeheartedly just letting the door open and paying people to be here that don't even acknowledge who they really are or what their background is. You and I, if we were to travel to Mexico, would pay $175 in visa fees to be able to go into that country just to take a vacation. And we would have to prove who we are, and we'd have to have identity. That's not the way it was handled. And so what's going on today in saying that we protect undocumented people in our community, that's not safe for our community, and that's not healthy for our community. It puts a lot of people at risk, not necessarily risk like physical risk, but can you get in trouble because you hired somebody that is not documented, and then you're in trouble with employment laws as a result of that. Who are you renting to? Do you know who you're renting to, space-wise? If that person didn't even acknowledge who they were when they came to this country and didn't have to, that's not appropriate either. So I do not agree with the amendments that they made to the current sanctuary city policy a couple months ago. I think that's wrong, and I would revert back to what we did in the 80s.
Next question, when it comes to the federal government and the Trump administration, I know there is a big concern about funding cuts, in particular cities or localities don't uphold to those standards. Are there concerns there for you when it comes to funding? I know you did mention when it comes to Malik, he's answering to the governor and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Federal government's kind of doing that same thing.
As far as I know, right now the impasse is that our Democratic representatives are not willing to continue the current budget, pass the continuing resolution to allow funding continue for the government to operate. And so that funding has been in place since December of last year. It was passed under the Biden administration. I don't know why we're holding it up and keeping that from our community, but that's going to create a crisis if it doesn't get passed.
Let me clarify here. Not more so talking about the government shutdown, talking about that localities, state, cities, and counties are fearful of federal funding cuts, even before the shutdown. Just what are your thoughts about that? Some localities are having to recalculate federal funding to programs that they've already received money for in previous years.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to look closer to home to resolve our needs. I agree with cutting the financial burden, right now, we are burdening my grandchildren with debts to pay bills today. And that's out of control in my mind. It doesn't help Rochester in the long term, being burdened with huge debts. So figuring out how to trim and cut budgets and do things lean is an exercise that the Trump administration is putting on the whole country. Certain parts of the country rely more heavily on federal funding, and I think Rochester is one of those areas. So it's going to be a challenge to make those, figure out how to run the services and the things that we have relied on federal budget-wise. As an example, I just used the city operational budget this year of $650 million dollars, and the Rochester City School District's budget was $1.1 billion. So we, as taxpayers in the city of Rochester, obviously can't, we're not funding that $1.1 billion. But that shows how much we're reliant on either state or federal funding. And so how do we get that under control in a way where it's more locally funded? When you have better local funding and you have local control of what your service is and how you provide services to people.
And if you're elected mayor, would you work with the Trump administration to get federal funds and to get things done here?
Yes, I would work with the elected officials that are in our region to represent, we have Congressman Morelli, is our sole representative to Congress for the Monroe County region. So he would need to chase down things and push that forward, and I would work with the Trump administration to chase after what needs are necessary for our region to succeed.
All right, and a message to voters: why should they vote for you come election day?
So my business experience, my family experience, having raised my family in Rochester and lived my adult life in the Rochester area, gives me a very good familiarity with the challenges that Rochester has before it. Spanning the successes of past Rochester and understanding that we're not going backwards, we're going forwards, and finding those new opportunities as we looking for those and chasing that down is an important thing. As a businessman, I've had to chase business and find business opportunities. So I'm well aware of what private sector can provide for us, and having those good relationships and fostering those to grow even more so that we can become have a better standing as a community and not be dependent on the winds of economy of our government funding policies.
And given your background, having businesses, having a family, what brings you joy and what do you do for fun?
So right now, I would say my family brings me joy, but my family's far away from me right now. My kids have gone elsewhere in the country because things have called them to other places. So that's not close at hand. But what's close at hand is being able to get out and engage with the Rochester area. I'm a cyclist, and I enjoy interacting with people in my cycle group that are from the city, from the suburbs, and connecting with my community through that outdoor activity. And so outdoor recreation is one of the things I take joy from, and my church community, building family and connections through that as well.
Is there anything I'm missing just about your campaign, you as a person, that you'd like to share with voters and viewers?
Give me a pause for a second. I've talked so much. I'm your neighbor. That's number one. I live in the city. I understand what's going on in the city, and I'm always eager to learn more about what's going on in the city. And so vote for your neighbor, Louis Sabo, on November 4th. I want to see us grow together and Rochester have more wins.